So I watched the Marvels, and I have to say it's a Marvel movie. It definitely has a lot of that quirky energy. It's definitely a I'm not like the other girls type of movie. So. So let's just get into it. I won't really talk about spoilers just yet. I'll get into that a bit later. I'll just try to cover the story as best I can without spoiling for the people who don't want to be spoiled. But do you really care? But I'll do it anyways. So right out of the gate, this movie felt messy. Very messy. This movie felt like stylistically, it didn't really know what it wanted to be. It would be super serious 1 minute, and then in the very next moment, it just very jovial, very comedic. It just felt like it didn't know what it wanted. Like, I'm not saying like you can't have comedic moments in serious movies. I'm not saying comedic movies can't have serious moments, but the back and forth was just extremely drastic, and this would keep happening. Like, there'd be very emotional moments, and like there are a few in this movie, not many, but there are a few. And instead of allowing us to sit with those moments and really take it in, instead they're like, okay, move on. Okay, time to move on. Come on, let's keep this pushing. Let's get to the next point. Come on now. If they're sad, they're not gonna like the movie, so time for jokes now. Haha. It just felt a bit messy. So this could be chopped up to maybe some studio interference. Like, you could see that the movie was trying to be one thing, but it felt like it was also trying to be another. It just could be like maybe the director and the studio had two different ideas or two different visions of what this movie should have been, and it shows. It really does. It's just really messy. So the big thing with this movie is that Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, and Captain Marvel are all swapping bodies. That's the big thing. That's the big through line. That's like the main bulk of the story, I guess. And it gets stale super quickly. After the first major fight, I'm already over it. The gimmick got stale very quickly. Like, this is definitely a gimmick that can work well for like a series, like a weekly thing where like one episode they introduce this and hijinks ensue for that singular episode, and it's like, I know it's fun, whatever. But for an entire movie, this got stale so quickly. It's not even a joke. And for a movie that's full of jokes, unsurprisingly, this one's not one of them. I don't really know what they were thinking with this. Like, I can see the original intent, but this really just, it wasn't it. It just got super stale super quickly. Now, I have to say, in my opinion, one of my favorite aspects of this movie was Kamala Khan. Now, some people might not think the same because they might find her a bit annoying, they might find her high energy, a bit much. But I kind of found her very sweet and I found her very endearing. I kind of liked her for it. She was very emotive. She was very much like the heart of this movie. It felt like she was enjoying being there. And I mean, like, as in the actor Iman Vellani, felt like she was enjoying being in this movie and she truly enjoyed the experience. And you could see that through her acting. She truly is enjoying doing this. I kind of like that. Like, I felt very endeared to this character. Now, I'm in the minority here because I actually do like Kamala Khan. I watched the original series. I enjoyed her there. And I enjoy her here too as well. I think she just works great. She definitely has a lot of personality. She stands out. She's fun to watch. And I think she's sweet. She's so sweet. But the big issue with her character is that she was put in two projects that were extremely mediocre. And I have to say, as someone who definitely likes the character, it's not a good look when the only time people can see you is if they watch a movie or watch a series that they're not really interested in. That's a shame because I feel like this character is special and I feel like she has a lot to bring to the table. It's just like if they can put her in maybe better projects, then maybe people will like it more. But I just felt like, she was kind of wasted here because especially she felt like she was the emotional core that truly held this movie together. Like, she stole every scene that she was in, and she truly managed to capture that spirit of a teenager, meeting their heroes, kind of enjoying the process of getting to know them. I think it worked. Her character really worked well. It's just a shame all of her character development so far is in two projects that no one has seen and probably won't see. Also, her family was great. I love her family so much. They're so cute. They're so cute. Her and her family dynamic is it's wonderful to watch. It's really heartwarming stuff. I love the family dynamic. It worked well in the series, and it also works well here, so I'm just really sold on this character. I feel like they just had a better story to involve her in. She could truly shine. The one thing that actually did surprise me out of this movie was Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel actually this time around had a lot more presence and a lot more character. She was a lot more emotive. She had a wide array of emotions all throughout the movie. She wasn't the stoic, stone-faced wall that she was in the first movie and every other appearance before that. She actually was allowed to feel things. Honest to God, that's amazing. Going from like basically a blank piece of paper to actually having something. Look, a lot of people are gonna say, it's still not enough, but you know what? It's something. Like, oh my god, it's something, and that's better than nothing. I feel this time around Captain Marvel got a lot more to work with, and I think having the other characters there for her to bounce off of definitely did help. Sure, in the grand scheme of things, she was okay at best. Like, she wasn't anything special, but I will say, going from nothing to something is a start. Nick Fury as well. This time around, I just say he was okay. He didn't do anything that stood out really, or like he wasn't anything that was that special. He felt like very much a background character, and like sure, I guess he is, but like he always used to have this commanding presence before, which isn't really seen in this movie. He's okay, but like I think after Secret Invasion, it really did take a lot of credibility away from this character. And even in this movie, he doesn't feel as interesting as his original appearances. He just feels in this movie okay. He had some bright moments here and there, but he was just okay. It was just Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson, so I can't complain too much, I guess. I do like Samuel L. Jackson, but just, the mystique of Nick Fury is definitely lost. You feel it in this movie. He feels lesser, for the lack of a better word. Monica Rambeau was, for me, an actual surprise. I was shocked how little presence her character had. Monica Rambeau was the one character in this movie that I expected to be a slam dunk, especially everything I got to see from her character in WandaVision. I had a lot more expectations of her, so when the movie finally came out and I got to see her, I was kind of disappointed how bland she was. Like, out of all the characters there, she felt like she should have been the one to practically carry this film, but instead, we get a bland character with borderline no personality, no motivation, really. She felt like she was just there, and she was just giving a lot of exposition. I was kind of very disappointed. Like, out of all the characters, I really expected her to stand out in this film, and she just disappointed me. Captain Marvel had more of a personality than her, and that's saying something. That is actually saying something. The CGI was nothing really to write home about either. It had some moments where it looked good, but there also were a few moments where it was a bit noticeable that they were like on wires. It was a bit noticeable that, they weren't really in the environment. They stood out like a sore it didn't feel like they blended in their environment. It didn't feel like it was natural to see them there. Like, again, it was nothing to write home about. There were some bright spots. There was some lows. It was just mediocre at best, which is kind of like the main premise of this whole movie at this point. The choreography was an interesting one for me because there were some genuinely good parts, I feel, and then there were just parts where I was just super uninspired and just super bland. Again, messy being one of the defining words for this film. Again, there were some bright spots. There were actually some moments where I was like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. And then others where I was like, that was a fight scene, I guess. Movement happened, action was happening on screen. Like, this movie is just messy. Just so messy. For what it's worth, there are some comedic moments that actually do land. There are some jokes that actually give you a little bit of a giggle, and there are some genuine sweet moments between the characters that I feel do work well. So, for whatever that's worth, there are some decent moments. Nothing you haven't seen before, but you know what? Decent. Now, I will say, this movie's not as bad as some people will make it out to be. I've seen worse. A lot worse come out of Marvel. But it's definitely just mediocre. Like, your time would be better spent watching anything else. It's such a whatever kind of movie. It's really just mediocre. It's nothing interesting. It's nothing that you haven't seen before. It felt like a movie that was made for the sake of being made and for the sake of pushing out more product and future product at this point. So as soon as you finish watching this movie, you pretty much forgot it. This movie is going down the memory hole almost immediately. But for my final ranking, I'll give this movie a put a chick in it and make her lame out of 10. So we're now in the spoiler section, and in all honesty, do you really care? But hey, this is what the warning is for. So this movie starts out with a new villain, and I can't remember what her name was for the life of me, so I'm just going to call her Ronan 2.0, because that's pretty much all she was. She's just Ronan the Accuser, but woman. She basically finds the movie MacGuffin, which we find is the opposite bracelet to Miss Marvel's bracelet. So she basically needs both bracelets, but because she can't find the other one, she's just going on ahead with the one, which does cause some problems and cause some rift within space. And which is kind of also one of the main reasons for the body switching between the main characters, which I'm going to get into that right now. The body switching gimmick is a bit convoluted and a bit messy, which is, again, such a key point of this movie. It is so messy. Like, thematically, this movie is a total mess. It really is. So these rifts are the actual reason why the main characters keep swapping bodies. And what we find out is that these rifts are caused by the bands that Kamala and the villain have, which are called quantum bands. Very original Marvel name. And what ends up happening is that Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau end up touching two rifts on two opposite ends. Because they're linked to Miss Marvel, it links all three of them together, which is what's causing all of this going back and forth between bodies. Now, how exactly the body switching worked was very unclear. So the basic premise that we were going off of is whenever they use their power, they would switch bodies, but there'd be moments where they were clearly using their powers and they weren't switching, and it happened very often. Like, they'd swap at some points, but not others. Like, there'll be moments where they're clearly using their powers, and then no swapping happens, and then all of a sudden, in the next scene, oh, they're swapping now because they use their powers. Whoa! This was super unclear. Like, the rules on how this worked were never specified, so we were just guessing. And for a lot of explanation that this movie does, this was one thing that they didn't explain, which I think was an integral part of the movie that should have been explained. But, I mean, if the movie doesn't care about it, why should we? So, side note, this is something that I also want to mention. There was a moment in this film that kind of blew my mind in terms of like this power scaling of how Captain Marvel works. So, there was a scene where she was teleported back to Earth. So, I'm going to describe this scene to make you understand how weird this kind of was. So, Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau were on the enemy ship. And originally, Captain Marvel was on that ship, but then she got teleported back to Earth for using her powers. Now, I fully believe that this happened for no other reason that the plot just needed her to be there in that exact moment. But in retrospect, what that shows is that Captain Marvel has some insane speed, far beyond what we thought, because she was dimensions away from where she originally was and got back there in seconds. Like, I know she's fast, but this is an insane speed feat. Like, this puts her in an insane level of speed. And if she wasn't overpowered enough, this is just adding to that, I feel. Now, there was some tension between Monica Rambeau and Captain Marvel, with Monica Rambeau feeling that Captain Marvel abandoned her and, left her to deal with a lot of life trials by herself. And where Captain Marvel felt like she couldn't return just yet because of all the mistakes that she's made in her past, and she wanted to fix those before coming back to Monica Rambeau, because Captain Marvel didn't want Monica to see her as a failure, to see her as this kind of person. And you know what? It's some depth to the character. She didn't really have any of that before, so I guess, that's some character progression, at least. However, it goes by pretty quickly, and it felt undercut. Like, this should have felt like something that was built up throughout the entire movie, but instead, it just happens. Like, we see a bit of it in the beginning with, like, Monica feeling a bit cagey towards Captain Marvel, and then it just blows up in the end, and I feel like there should have been a bit more, personally. It felt like it was resolved very quickly and very cleanly. Now, I don't really know. I feel like this might have been like an editing issue, but it felt like there were some parts of the movie that were cut. For example, there was a moment in the movie where Ronan 2.0 and the Skrulls on another planet were having a meeting. It wasn't really clear what they were negotiating, but we know that they were negotiating something. And it seemed like they had some form of alliance. And then all of a sudden, in another scene, Captain Marvel was on the ship fighting Ronan 2.0, and then as the fight progresses, she eventually leaves the ship and lands, and when she lands, she's landed right next to the Skrulls. So Ronan 2.0 thinks the Skrulls betrayed her. I'm not joking when I say that's exactly what happened. Captain Marvel didn't make any alliance. She didn't say anything to them. Captain Marvel literally just stood next to the Skrulls. And then all of a sudden Ronan's like, "You guys betrayed me. How could you? I'm gonna destroy your world." Really? Wait, what? What did I miss something? I don't know what's happening here. I swear something is missing. Something in the script is completely missing, and I don't know what it is, because this is just baffling. It's baffling how this took place, and exactly how I described it is exactly how it happened. If you're confused, so am I. I don't understand what just happened here, and I genuinely feel like it's either they cut this up really weirdly, or there's just parts of the movie that are just flat out missing. Oh yeah, Valkyrie appears, so um, I guess there's the cameo, the classic MCU cameo from an established character. Even calling her established is a stretch, but whatever. So yeah, she appeared for whatever that's worth. She's in the movie. She pops in. She takes the few Skrulls that were rescued by Captain Marvel and takes them back to, I guess, to New Asgard. So just as quickly as she comes is as quickly as she leaves. So I guess that's that. Now, I'll bring up the music section. It was advertised in the trailers, and when you did see it in the movie, it felt a little weird. Like, look, I'm a big musical fan. I grew up with them and I love them. And even I was like, this felt a bit weird. I get that they were just trying to be quirky and maybe try to be bit comedic, but it's just ended up feeling weird. It felt like the only reason they put in this music section was because they had a K-pop star and they just wanted to have him sing, and that was it, really. Because outside of that, this just it felt like it came at a weird time in the movie. It broke a lot of tension. Again, the pacing of the movie is just messy, and I think this scene just added to it. It felt unnecessary, and it just felt like there was no narrative cohesion here. Again, it just goes back and forth from being really serious to just being very silly. I don't really know what they were going for, but whatever it was, it didn't work. So I'm gonna mention the cats in this movie. So there was a lot of cat humor all throughout this movie, like just so much cat humor. And I mean, I guess like I like cats, sure, but like it just felt forced. But whatever. And one of the biggest moments in this film was something went wrong with Nick Fury's ship, and it was just basically gonna fall apart at some point. So Nick Fury needed to save his crew. So he incorporated the help from the Flurgan, aka the cat. Side note: the cat had kittens. So that was something that was advertised in the trailer. And what proceeds to happen is basically for like the next 3 minutes or so, it basically just becomes a horror movie with what I could basically describe as elevator music to kind of like make it seem like it's not a horror film when it is. And the Flurgans basically just eat all of like Nick Fury's crew. So like the way this was described is that the Flurgan have like some interdimensional portal in their stomach or something that can hold people. So Nick Fury was like, okay, in order for me to save my crew, all the kittens are just gonna eat them. And I'm not gonna lie, kind of got a chuckle out of me. Like, it's just like, this is just so absurd. The levels of absurdity that we have reached are beyond anything that I was expecting. And for a genuine 3 minutes, it's just a horror movie. Even the elevator music, I felt like they were trying to like tame it down a bit, but like, bro, it was it was borderline just a horror film. You felt like you were just watching Alien like 4 or something. We finally get to the end, and it's exactly what you expect. They team up, they fight the villain, a huge battle ensues. They defeat the villain, but they don't want to kill the villain, so they're like, let's make a truce. The villain's like, okay, sure. And then obviously the villain betrays them, so on, so on. Same old, same old. Been there, done that. You've seen it before. There's genuinely nothing interesting here. Also, the villain gets both of the bangles and then, tries to destroy the sun, but instead destroys herself. Again, they don't want the heroes to kill the villain because, killing people's bad. So obviously let the villain kill themselves. And because the villain had both the bangles and, kind of like disintegrated in space, I guess that means they don't switch anymore. I'm guessing that was the reason because they gave us no other reason outside of that. And I guess if the movie doesn't really care why they don't switch anymore, there's no reason why I should care. So, okay, I guess. Whatever. Also, just a side note, because like I feel like this was just a huge oversight. How is Kamala breathing in space? Look, they're on an open deck. Like, that's space air coming in right now. How is Kamala breathing all that in? I can understand Captain Marvel. I can even understand Monica because of how they portrayed her powers. But Miss Marvel, I didn't know she could breathe in space as well. I thought for the most part she was still human, except for like those light sphere things. But I guess now she can breathe in space, so that's just something she does now. Cool. And then in the end, they put all the powers together, to save the day and close the little like dimensional wall, quantum something something or another. Who really cares at this point? And they give all of the power to Monica, and Monica ends up sacrificing herself, and she goes to the opposite side of the dimensional wall thingy. I don't know. Space time stuff. She's not really dead, more like she's just trapped in that world. But like, yeah, that's how it ends. Now we end up getting to the end credits, and that end credits kind of hint towards Kamala Khan forming the Young Avengers with Kate Bishop and Ant-Man's daughter, whose name is I can't remember, and I just remember her being forgettable. So yeah, Young Avengers is coming, I guess. So yay. Also, in the second end credit, we found out that Monica, oh, look, she's not actually dead. Yay. Also, we found out that I mentioned that she's stuck in, it seems like the X-Men are in that universe. So, yay, because we got a cameo from Beast. And her mother's also still alive in that universe. And she's Captain Rambeau, I guess. So, yay. Aren't you guys excited? All in all, a very forgettable movie. Like, I think most people are gonna forget about this movie almost immediately, and as soon as they watch it, they'll just like, okay, that happened. Let's move on. It's extremely forgettable, mediocre, which is what Marvel's basically just become at this point. Just mediocre movies and just nonsensical storytelling that no one really cares about anymore. Marvel used to be on top of its game, and now it's just so forgettable. Whatever. I think I'm gonna go cleanse my palate with an actually good cinematic universe. I'm gonna go watch some WWE, fam. Or more like maybe a televised universe. Who knows? But hey, if WWE can do it, I don't know how you failing. But whatever. Yeah, seriously, I need to go see what LA Knight and Cody Rhodes is up to. Because goddamn, this was garbage. I need actually something good to cleanse my palate. But that's just me. What did you guys think? Did you guys watch it? Did you guys even care to watch it? Let me know down below. What are your thoughts on Captain Marvel as a character as a whole? I just feel like this movie was just whatever. So please leave a like, please share, and let me know what you think. Anyways, that's all I got. I hope you guys had a great day. Hope you enjoyed yourself. And I just thank you for listening this long. I do appreciate you. Thank you, and hope you have a good day. Bye bye now.